Test 3. This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a woman phoning a travel agency about hot air balloon rides. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, Smart Travel. Jason speaking.
Hi, good morning. I saw your advert in today's paper about hot air balloon trips. It sounds pretty exciting, and I wonder how much it costs.
Well, the price may vary depending on the location, number of participants, and add-ons. A single ride may cost you up to £280 per person, but if you choose group booking, there is a discount, and the cheapest flight is £125 each for a group booking of at least 10 people.
Oh, that's not too bad. What do you mean by add-ons?
They are optional items, like taking photos for you during the ride, champagne, and sit-down breakfast after the flight. Upon completing the trip, we will provide each participant with a certificate, and that is entirely free of charge.
Can I book a ride over the phone?
Yes, that's an option. Reservations can be made 1 year ahead of your trip by telephone, but to pick a specific date, you must book online. A confirmation email will be sent to you right afterwards.
How high can the balloons go?
A hot air balloon's height is limited by the temperature of the air and how much fuel it can carry, and the highest altitude ever recorded for a ride is 1,800 meters, but most rides stay below 300 meters.
Oh boy, that's impressive. How long is a single ride?
The average hot air balloon ride lasts about an hour. The entire ballooning experience, which includes ground preparation, flight and post-flight packing up and celebration, may take 2 to 3 hours.
And what time are the flights?
Our flights generally meet about an hour before sunrise on the day. You will be notified of the exact meeting time the evening before your flight. Night flights are avoided due to weather conditions.
Fair enough. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10. Which month do you recommend for a hot air balloon trip?
Autumn is the best time of year to take the trip. Not only can you see the changing hues of the trees from above, but it is a great way to spend time with the whole family before it gets too cold.
I see.
But please note that our flight may be cancelled and you will be notified by phone the day before.
Why is that?
It can be quite dangerous to fly under bad weather conditions, like a thunderstorm. So our experienced pilots will not go under such conditions.
What should I wear for the ride?
We suggest wearing comfortable clothing, like a jacket.
Multiple layers are always better.
Wearing a helmet for safety concerns is also a good idea. Sandals are not permitted.
Can children or older people participate?
All children must be above the minimum age of 9 years old, and they have to be accompanied by at least a parent or guardian. However, an adult has no age limit as long as they meet the health requirements.
What exactly are the health requirements?
Participants must at least be in fair physical condition. For example, they shall have no significant knee, hip, or back problems, and no recent surgeries or broken bones. They must also stand unassisted for an hour during the flight. It is the required position during the whole flight. As the balloon comes to land, all passengers will need to adopt the landing position with knees bent in front of them.
Are those rides safe?
Hot air balloon companies are required to have a commercial balloon pilot license, and all our pilots go through rigorous training before they are allowed to fly. It is a relatively gentle activity. However, the impact of a balloon landing can vary drastically depending on factors like wind speed. Sometimes it is similar to the momentum of jumping off a small chair. If you cannot jump off a small chair, speaking to your doctor before booking a balloon flight is best.
Thank you very much. I think that's all I need to know.
Thanks for calling. Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2. You will hear a woman talking on a radio program about a festival that is about to take place. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 18. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 18.
I have in this studio with me Mary Smith from Yorktown Tourism, who is here to tell us about some of the events happening in our state capital over the next 3 weeks at the Spring Festival. So, Mary, what can we expect to see?
Well, being in Yorktown is such an exciting time. To kick off the Spring Festival, a vast firework will be displayed down by the lake, starting at 9 p.m. this Saturday, the 4th of September. Over 10,000 fireworks will be set off. All are choreographed to music and broadcast simultaneously here on Radio Yorkie. You should get there early if you want to get close to the action. So bring along a picnic and a blanket, as it could get chilly in the evening. One thing that attracts visitors to the festival from all over the country is the fantastic collection of flowers on show in Central Park throughout the festival. special buses will run daily from the town centre to the show at 20-minute intervals for those who prefer public transport. If you are interested in seeing the latest in cars, from the fastest to the most expensive, then head over to the Motor Show at the Exhibition Centre from the 10th to the 15th of September. It will be open daily from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m, so you can even pop in there after work. Do you like photography? Then go along to Grow Your Imagination, an exhibition of photographs of famous gardens, which will be held at the Art Gallery from the 11th to the 19th of September. Come and be inspired by some of the world's most beautiful gardens. I have a sneak preview of some of the photographs, and they are magnificent. If music is more your thing, then you should come and hear the Australian Philharmonic Orchestra performing Swing in Spring at the Concert Hall on Friday the 17th and Saturday the 18th of September. It's a celebration of dance music from the 1940s and 50s. There will be 3 performances. Both evenings start at 7 p.m. and a matinee performance at 2:30 on Saturday. So get your dancing shoes on and hit there. It's a guarantee to get your feet tapping. Before you hear the rest of the programme, you have some time to look at questions 19 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 19 to 20. Those are just a few of the attractions on offer. But for something a little different, you could try Balloons Down Under, which is the largest gathering of hot air balloons in the Southern Hemisphere. It's well worth it because over 25 balloons of all shapes and sizes will be a fantastic sight. I'm also happy to announce that one lucky person will get to go up in one of these free balloons. That is the prize in our unique Spring Festival competition. It usually costs you $200, so it's not a bad prize. I'm sure you all want a chance to win, so you'll need to fill out the entry form in today's paper of the York Town News. Don't forget to include your phone number and send it to Radio Yorkie. Make sure your entry reaches us by 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 9th of September. Then, to see if you've won, check out the festival's website on Saturday, the 11th of September, where we will publish the name of the lucky winner. It's such a fantastic prize, so hurry up and get your entry in. So there you have it, just a few special events happening here in York Town over the Spring Festival. And if you like any more details about... That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 students called Troy and Gabriella discussing a dissertation on music. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hey, Gabriella. How is it going?
I've been pretty busy lately.
Oh, what are you up to?
I've been working on a dissertation on music education, specializing in music performance.
Sounds intriguing. What have you found?
Well, I interviewed 18 freshmen majoring in music performance as my sample population. I first asked about their music background before being accepted to music schools.
Let me guess. Have they all got relevant qualifications in music?
Well, even though there is a wealth of music qualifications available, most of the students didn't receive any until they entered music schools. Some capabilities like music production or music technology are pretty tough going.
Now that you've mentioned it, I recall that I got mine in sound engineering in my sophomore year.
Right, but the majority of these students admitted that they had performed in front of a large crowd. Around 80% of them had performed on stage as band members in secondary schools. A few of them played piano or guitar at the time, and it also surprised me that they were generally able to play multiple instruments with proficiency.
Have they tried to compose a piece of music before?
Only in rare cases did they have prior experience in composition.
They would have to do it sooner or later. There is a whole module for it. What did they say about practicing?
All subjects mentioned that they feared being marked too low and tried their best.
So, they were like practicing every single day?
Not for most people. Some students worked with others in a band, so they had to arrange the time for rehearsals. But all 18 students had sufficient amount of practice, and they frequently mentioned that playing technical pieces was exhilarating.
I feel that way too.
And then I asked questions about how they chose the pieces that were assessed and their attempts to improve their performance in recital classes.
What did they say?
2 students mentioned that they always asked their tutors' advice on the pieces they were going to perform, because they felt that would give them a competitive edge over those who had no clue of tutors' preference in music.
Well, that's a bit sneaky.
But the most common remark was that they had a minimal interest in pieces that the public barely knew. Instead, most prefer popular pieces that other students would also choose.
How come?
They said that this could mirror their weaknesses and thus help them to perfect the techniques for handling the most difficult bits. All but one of the 18 students admitted that to perform well, they had to learn the music by heart, or otherwise they would have to divert their attention and thus make some errors.
I agree.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30. Then I asked them about their thoughts on practicing in different aspects, and some of their answers were entirely unexpected.
Oh, what aspects did you look into?
I first asked how they feel about playing solo.
What did they say?
They said being a solo performer takes desire, focus and hard work, and the performance would not pull off if one took the stage without confidence. But they all took great pleasure in it.
Yeah, that's quite different from playing in an orchestra, where musicians have to work with other members to produce a harmonious sound that is pleasing to the ear.
Right. And I also asked whether the choice of the piece to play would affect their performance.
Well, that's a big yes for me. When I play a song I don't like, I won't devote myself to it.
That's widely accepted. The audience can tell when performers are being authentic and inspired by the music they are performing. Many would spend hours or even days choosing the right piece.
You have to put a lot of thought into it before it's too late. So what kind of musical genre do they prefer?
The answers vary vastly, but one thing in common is that they rarely switch from one style to another.
Of course, it is tough to make such a transition. Most instrumentalists initially start with some classical-based training, but they don't know how to take their already existing knowledge and apply it to a new style of music. What about their feedback on playing duets?
Yes, that's the last question on my list. I asked their take on playing a duet with someone with the same musical instrument, like a violin duet. Although it is pretty demanding to do so, they all admitted that it is helpful in that it renews their motivation while enhancing their technical skills.
So, have you started writing the first draft of your dissertation? I can help if...
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 3.
Part 4. You will hear part of a term project presentation about a British architect named George Dodds in the 19th century. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
My project is on the 19th century British architect George Dodds, who used to be famous not just in the northeast of the UK, but throughout the country. At first, I chose him for my term project because in my early teens, I had always admired Mytton Hall, a mansion he built near my home. Later, I wanted to learn more about the man responsible for it. I thought I'd use the project as an excuse and managed to unearth a wealth of information about architecture and fascinating life. I thought I'd start today by telling you a little about Dodds himself, before looking at a selection of his more substantial buildings. He was the son of a landscape gardener and had a brief but successful career in his father's business. But the young Dodds started to resent what he saw as his father's old-fashioned approach to landscape. Dodds began to spend a lot of time thinking about how he could break with convention, creating buildings in a new relationship with their surroundings. In 1810, Dodds, aged 23 at the time, decided to go to London to study art under the eminent watercolourist Jack Vermoss. His friends strongly encouraged him to stay and work in London, as architects were highly regarded there. But by 1811, he decided to move back to northeast England because he discovered that more clients would hire him for his fashionable ideas from London. Having a large customer base, the city council included, Dodds was able to set up an architectural firm of his own. Dodds distanced himself from other builder architects and gradually established himself as one of the new breed of professional architects. And one of his signature designs was the Royal Arcade, which was commissioned by the City Council. Although never practiced in London, Dodds gained a national reputation when he joined the newly formed Northern Architectural Association and was elected to be its first chairman. He retired from active work in his 70s after suffering a stroke, from which he never fully recovered. Dodds died at the age of 77 at his home. Dodds was versatile and could build houses of many different styles that his clients desired. His country houses are too little known, mainly because they are not so large, that they are open to the public and are often still in private hands, hidden behind parkland and trees. One was Mytton Hall, built in 1824 and finished 2 years later. The outstanding characteristics of Mytton Hall are Dodds' use of beautiful golden sandstone, Grecian-style entrance porticos, elegant staircases leading to an upper gallery. The building has a domed ceiling with a glass centrepiece. Even though the quality of the stonework was superb, some of the windows seemed to leak on rainy days. The building was renovated in 1987 and is now served as a conference centre. In 1830, the town council decided to build Royal Arcade on a site that used to be a corn exchange market and entrusted George Dodds with the design. And the shopping arcade was completed by 1832. The whole design was intended as an elegant shopping experience and was renowned for its grand balcony. Unfortunately, the Royal Arcade was not a commercial success, as it was positioned too far from the town centre, causing great difficulty in delivery. The arcade was demolished as early as the 1880s and is now used as a car park for neighbouring shops today. The final building I want to show you is Moreton Jail, which Dodds completed in 1839. It is a sturdy building with impressive towers based on medieval castles. However, although beautiful, the jail wasn't 100% functional. More striking was the absence of any space for exercise for the prisoners. An extra courtyard had to be added for this at a later date. Moreton ceased to be a penal institution in the 1940s, when it was scheduled for demolition, but was purchased for use as a hotel. That never came to pass, and as many of you will know, it is now run as a transport museum with a whole collection of vehicles that tell the city's story through transport.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 4.